Welcome to chapter 5 of the book of Song of Solomon. The Shulamite now is speaking, and I'll read a little in the Greek and we'll go through the book. Katavito adophidos mu is kipon avtu, kefageto karpon akrodrion avtu. Let my kinsman go down into his garden, and let him eat the fruit of his fruit trees. The garden in the New Testament, John 18:1 mentions, and these things having said, Jesus came with his disciples on the other side of the rushing stream of Kidron, where there was a garden into which he and his disciples entered. And then, 1941 of John, it says, and a garden was in the place where he was crucified, and in the garden a new sepulchre in which not yet was anyone placed. So let my kinsman go down into his garden, and let him eat the fruit of his fruit trees. Then the kinsman replies, I entered into my garden, my sister, O bride, Nymphe. I gathered the vintage of my myrrh with my aromatics. I ate my bread with my honey, and I drank wine with my milk. All these wonderful things are always mentioned, tied into love, the good things that God gives us in life, aromatics, myrrh, honey, wine, milk, all the wonderful things that we have to eat and use. Then the Shulamite continues, eat, O dear ones, and drink and be intoxicated. So now she says, dear ones, and be intoxicated, O kinsman. I sleep, but my heart is sleepless. The voice of my kinsman knocks upon the door. So she's speaking to this is, I believe, in the masculine, whoever they are. Now, being intoxicated is interesting. I'm sure a lot of people cringe that are Christians that are really against drinking alcohol. But the Bible has a lot of drinking of alcohol in it, people becoming intoxicated. Here, drink and be intoxicated. Jesus turned water into wine, and many other places. But I don't believe it wants us to be drunk and out of control. It was used for medicinal purposes, and in that condition, or in that way, then a person basically became intoxicated, especially if they were going to operate on the body or some sort of thing that had a lot of pain involved. And the kinsman then replies, open to me, my sister, my dear one, my dove, my perfect one, all these superlatives. For my head is filled of dew, and my curls of the mist of the night. I took off my inner garment, and that's the garment in Jesus that they divided. They didn't divide, they cast lots over. How shall I put it on again? I washed my feet. How shall I taint them? And then the Shulamite says, let's go back to verse 2. I sleep, but my heart is sleepless. The voice of my kinsman knocks upon the door. And we see where in Revelations 3:20 it says, behold, I stand at the door and I knock. If any should hear my voice and should open the door, even I will enter to him and have supper with him and he with me. So Jesus is knocking on the door, just as the kinsman right here was. Open to me, my sister, my dear one, my dove, my perfect one, for my head is filled of dew and my curls of the midst of the night. I took off my inner garment, How shall I put it on again? I wash my feet. How shall I taint them? The Shulamite then responds, my kinsman sent his hand through the opening, and I believe opening of the door, and my belly was alarmed over him. I rose up to open the door to my kinsman, and my hands dripped myrrh. My fingers were full-bodied myrrh upon the handles of the bolt. It's amazing how all these descriptions of all these things has to do with so many aromatics and wonderful things. And it's very poetic. I opened to my kinsman. My kinsman was gone. My soul came forth by his word. He told him. Kinsman told her. I sought him and did not find him. I called him and did not hear. We see in the New Testament in Luke 2:45, it says, and not finding him, they returned into Jerusalem, seeking him. That was the parents of Jesus when he was 12 years old, went to Jerusalem. Zacchaeus sought Jesus in Luke 19:3, climbed up a tree to see him. In John 20:15, Jesus says to her, O woman, why do you weep? Whom do you seek? And that was Mary in the garden. So I can feel for this Shulamite looking for her kinsman. I called him and I did not hear. They found me, the guards encircling in the city, and they struck me. They wounded me. They took my lightweight covering from me, and the keepers of the walls found me. Now we change. I have the Shulamite instead of the narrator, as it says, I bind you by an oath, O daughters of Jerusalem. She's talking to the daughters of Jerusalem. By the powers and by the strengths of the field, if you should find my kinsman, what should you report to him? For I am being pierced of love. Finding Jesus and being pierced of love, I believe, is a good description for all of us Christians. And now we have in verse 9, the daughters of Jerusalem. I should make another heading in the next time I go through the revisions. What is your kinsman from another kinsman? We could say the same thing. Or they could say that, what is Jesus from any other person? O fair one among women, what is your kinsman from another kinsman, that thus you bound us by an oath? And then the Shulamite continues and says, my kinsman is white and ruddy. Levkos, leukemia, has a white blood cells. Pyros, fiery, ruddy. Being selected from myriads, he's one of a kind, as Jesus is. His head is as gold of Kaphaz, his curls flowing fir trees, and black as a crow. His eyes are as doves by the fullnesses of waters, being bathed in milk, sitting down upon the fullnesses of waters. His jaws are as bowls of the aromatic, germinating scents. All the wonderful things coming from Jesus, we could make a list ourselves, just as the Shulamite has. His lips are as lilies dipping full-bodied myrrh. The things that Jesus speaks are dripping full-bodied myrrh for us. We can smell it. We can feel the words that he has to say. His hands are as turned gold, being filled with Tharsis stone. We may not feel his hands physically, but we do spiritually. We know that he has his hands around us, leading us down the path to his purpose for us. His belly is as a writing tablet of ivory upon a stone of sapphire. His shanks, down by his legs, are as columns of marble, founded upon bases of gold. His appearance is as Lebanon, choice as cedars, a lot of forests. Pharynx, his throat, is sweetness, and the words of Jesus are sweet in our ears, and he is entirely desirable. This is my kinsman. This is my dear one, O daughters of Jerusalem. This is my Jesus. This is my dear one, O listener. Next chapter, chapter 6, she's continuing to look for the kinsman, and we'll find out if she finds him and what happens. If you join us in the next chapter, I hope you do. Till then, God bless.